Hello and welcome to this edition of Ringside Digest. I'm your host Kirk Day, along with my co-host Nick Miller, and today we've got some big playoff news. We've got our first confirmed matchup of the playoffs in between two big teams, two big rivals. We're going to talk about that. It's going to be very exciting. And we're also just going to do a little playoff picture update. We got some eliminated teams. We got some teams that have now clinched and will clinch tonight and tomorrow, next few days. And yeah, just basically just go over what we know so far, what we're going to expect to happen, what we think will happen, and basically that's it. But before we get into this video, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more stuff from us, because the playoffs are coming up soon, and we have a lot of stuff in store, and it's going to be very, very exciting. It's a good time to be an NHL fan. We got the playoffs coming up. After that, we're going to have free agency. We're going to be talking about the draft. We're going to have everything else. It's going to be very, very exciting. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see that, because we know a lot of you guys aren't, so it's going to be very exciting. It's a very good time to do it. See us get through the content, and yeah, just make sure to do it. And without any further ado, let's get into our first topic here, which, like I said, is the big clinching teams. It's between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning are having a confirmed matchup in the first round of the playoffs. And this one, I think we've seen it for a while. We've been expecting this one for a while. It's a big matchup, a very, very big matchup. This came last night. It was confirmed. I'm not sure the exact way it worked, the games that happened to make it happen, but it is. That is our first matchup. That's the first one we know will for sure happen. And it is a big one. It's a doozy. It's a lot of talk about this one too. So, and they basically played 2 times this year so far, and they have 1 game remaining left. So this is gonna be a big game coming up. I think it's like in the next 4 games later, and they're gonna be playing for the final time this season before the matchup in the playoffs. And the season series this year is 1-1. The Tampa won 4-3 the first one, and Toronto won 4-1 the second. It's going to be a very, very close playoff matchup, I think. What do you think about this one, Nick?
I think this next matchup in the next few days could go one of 2 ways. I think it's going to be the same for both teams either way. If one team decides to rest all their players in that game, so you can't get any licks in on them before, the big playoff series or whatever, I think the other team's going to do the same. Or maybe they all start all their players and then they start something brewing before the series, like try to get some blood boiling or whatever. We know Patty Maroon will be in on that, like Luke Schen's going to be out there throwing bodies. So I'm really excited for this matchup. I think Toronto got a lot tougher than they were last year. I think the talent is still there. There's no question. I think that Matthews he's having like a down year in terms of Matthews standards, which is almost a 40-goal season, which is crazy. But that's a down year, but I think he's injured, but he's getting better because he's been playing better in the last few weeks or whatever. So hopefully Matthews gets really healthy for that playoff series, and like they have a really real Toronto versus Tampa Bay matchup like we had last year, and just some more toughness on the Leafs side.
Yeah, and just always seems to be when they put Matthews in my Tim's pick, he never scores. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. But like you said of the roughing up the teams for that matchup, tonight Matt Murray left the game due to an injury. Someone slid into him. He didn't come back for the third period, so Samsonov came in, stayed the rest of the game. So that's interesting. We're going to have to watch to see what happened to Matt Murray on this one, if it's a long-term injury, because that's not good for the Leafs if that is a long-term injury.
Might be a rough there.
Yeah, that will be crucial.
Because I think they were gonna go with whoever had the hot hand in the playoffs, and right now it's either Samsonov has the hot hand or you're calling up Joseph Wall. I think his name is Joseph Wall, and that's gonna be your backup. What if something happens to Samsonov then?
Yeah, that's a bad situation.
You got Joseph Wall getting brutally outplayed by Andrei Vasilevsky. So I mean, Matt Murray getting injured, it's predictable, but I mean it's not good for Toronto.
Yeah, no, he's had injury trouble in the past, injury trouble this year as well. And like I want both these teams to be as healthy as possible. I want to see the full potential of both these teams come together. But on that subject as well, this Saturday, April 7th, we have the Frozen Four final. So if Minnesota Golden Gophers do go to the finals, Matthew Knies after that will be able to come to the Maple Leafs. And I personally do think that he will go. He may not play, but he is a very good player. And I think the Maple Leafs can use everything they need for this series. Even if he don't play, the possibility of him being there, the possibility of him practicing and getting into making the roster, getting a few games maybe even getting a few games at the end of the regular season just to make him get that experience before heading into such a crucial moment in the playoffs. So yeah. I think that is something to watch as well as Matthew Knies coming up to the Maple Leafs after this Frozen Four if they do make the finals. I mean, the semifinals are also the the day before April 6th. So even if you do get eliminated, it's a day early. Get to Toronto quicker if they do sign and do decide to bring him up. So that's something to keep an eye on as well for Maple Leafs fans out there.
Now, I do believe that Matthew Nyes would help this team in the playoffs if he got on the right line and got in like the right amount of practice with the team. I normally would say you can't bring in a rookie and play him in his first playoff game, in your first playoff game of the series or whatever. Like, I remember Montreal bring up Caulfield a few years ago. They didn't even play him in game one, which is crazy to think about. They didn't even play Caulfield in game one, or I think it was game two as well. But I think that Matthew Nyes has to play because if you're Toronto at this point, you've tried every single formula with this core that you possibly can. What do you have to lose at this point? You have to try anything that could possibly get you through the first round. And once you get through the first round, you play the President's Trophy winners probably. So, I mean, that gets tougher too, but I mean, they got to try it.
Yeah, you can't afford, if you get blown out a game, you have to change something up. You can't leave the same things that just happened that made you go into that situation. So even if you don't start in the first game, like you said, like they didn't do with Caulfield, it might not hurt if they lose. Try changing some things up. Throw Nyes in the lineup if he's not already in there. See what can happen. Even try to, like I said, just try to get him a few games prior if possible. If not, I don't think it's a big deal. But yeah, it's hard to change stuff in the playoffs with a team that's been gelled together all year. Obviously, there's some injuries. You're going to have Ryan O'Reilly coming back if he hasn't already. I'm not sure if he has. But just, you can't really try to break up what's working. And obviously, it has worked for the Leafs. They're playing good this year, as they have been for the past few years. Haven't gotten the results they've wanted to, but it's been working. So you don't want to try to change the gel too much. So it is cautious with Nyes, but I think it's a safe bet to bring him up. If you don't play him, that's fine. But it's always just that extra safety measure to have him there rather than not. Because you don't want to get an injury and have to bring someone up who has not had experience, who's been just playing in the AHL all year in a whole different system, and probably not even as good as Matthew Nyes. So that's something to keep an eye on just going into this first round, as they already know the matchup and what they want to do. So they can start game planning already. That's a good thing, I think, for both teams. It's early that they got this announcement, so they can figure that game plan out early.
Yeah, well, we've known since I think probably about November or December. Like, this has been a bunch of exhibition games from December on. So I think that we all knew this was going to happen for a while, and the teams, I think that's why they went out and got bigger and got tougher, because they knew that the last few years the reason they haven't won is because they get out. I think they're just unlucky, but I mean, like, they get outworked. They constantly get outworked, and they bring in some guys. You're not going to outwork Ryan O'Reilly. There's a few guys that'll outwork Ryan O'Reilly, and I mean, Luke Schenk he's pretty slow, but like he'll throw the body back there. He'll work pretty hard on that blue line. So I think they just need to work a little bit harder this year, and I personally have them beating Tampa in round one.
I do as well. They went out and got some dogs at the trade deadline, and that's what they needed. They needed some big guys. They needed guys who are not afraid to throw a hit, not afraid to take a hit, get the energy going. Maybe drop the gloves here and there, just get them going, because that's what they've been lacking the past few years. Like, someone takes a big hit, they're not retaliating. Obviously, you don't want to retaliate and take a penalty, but you're not getting the physicality brought up as well to match that. So they're getting outbodied almost in the past few times they've been in that situation. And with our second topic, we have just the playoff picture update, basically. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go over the eliminated teams. Obviously, just a little Connor Bedard update, just that's what these teams are playing for now. They're not playing for anything except the first overall pick. And then we're just going to go over the teams that have clinched, the teams that will clinch either tonight that we're recording this, or the next few days. And I'm not sure exactly the stipulations for them to clinch or whatnot, but they are pretty much playoff guaranteed teams. They will clinch, just don't know exactly when. So we're just going to go over the eliminated teams first, which we have here is Philadelphia, Arizona, Montreal, San Jose, Anaheim, Columbus, Chicago, and we also have St. Louis, which is not on this standings because they're a bit higher in the standings, so it didn't fit on the screen, but they are also eliminated. So these guys, I mean, Columbus won tonight against Ottawa, which is a kind of a big thing for Columbus, but not in a good way.
It's a head scratcher for sure. Like, I don't know what's going on there. Like, why would you? Like, I get it for people saying like the dignity thing at this point. Like, but at the same time, I don't get it, because if there's two choices, dignity or Connor Bedard. Like, the best chances of Connor Bedard, I'm not an NHL player, but I'm taking Connor Bedard 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
I like dignity for one season. Like I'm pretty sure Andrew Peak is their best defenseman right now playing. That's a huge issue. That might give you a little bit of nightmares. I'm sorry for saying that, but that's horrible for Columbus. I don't know why they're trying to do that, especially against. That's kind of embarrassing for a team like Ottawa. Actually, like they're still technically in a playoff race, and we'll get into those teams I think a little bit later. But like I don't know how you're losing to one of the worst teams in the NHL in the midst of a playoff race. Like you're, I think 6 points back at this point. You would have been 4 points back with the exact same amount of games played. So I just don't get that for either team.
Yeah, it's not like a win. One win for Columbus would up their dignity, up their credit this season. They've been horrible. They've been awful. They've been god awful. Nothing as good has gone for them this season. So yeah, it's both these teams in this game is bad for both of them. It's not exactly what you want. And St. Louis as well have been eliminated. I mean, obviously, I think we expected that at the trade deadline when they started selling. They got rid of Tarasenko, O'Reilly, Barbashev. They cleaned house. And so that's another team. These guys, they are in a bit of an odd spot too because they're not exactly in the bottom tier of the teams. They're eliminated, but I think they're 22nd place, so they're pretty much in the middle of the pack. So that one's a bit rough on them as well. Obviously, they're eliminated. They're not going to be the first overall pick. They're probably not going to be top 5. They're not going to be. It's going to be middle of the pack for them. But yeah, that's just pretty much the Connor Bedard update. But let's get into the top guys. The top teams. What we've been looking for in the playoffs. So here are the standings that we have. These are the 12 teams, and the ones with the X next to them means they have clinched. Except Boston, that means they've clinched the division. But the teams that are going to clinch soon are LA, Minnesota, Colorado, and Dallas. Now, 3 of those last teams I said are all in the Central, so that one's going to be a bit of a different situation. But the Kings can clinch tonight if they get at least a point. Any point. If they lose in overtime, they get the point. They win. They get the point. They're in. They're in the playoffs. And Minnesota could have clinched last night in a win against Vegas, or I believe it was if St. Louis beat Nashville. And that didn't happen, so Minnesota will have a chance tomorrow when they play Vegas again to clinch. And I'm not sure exactly for Colorado and Dallas which way they can clinch, but it will be soon, because Minnesota right now, I believe, is 3 points ahead in the Central at the top of the standings. So I think that's going to be pretty much what it's going to be. I don't want to jinx it, because I'm obviously a Minnesota fan. I hope, I want to say we stay at the top of the standings. Because after Vegas, we have some middle-tier games, like nobody excellent, but nobody bad. So I think games we're capable of winning. But I'm also just going to pull up, if the playoffs started today, what the current playoff picture is as of this video, as of recording. So it's Boston versus Florida, and we have the confirmed one of Toronto versus Tampa, Carolina versus New York Islanders, the Devils versus the Rangers. That's for the East. And for the West, we have Minnesota versus Seattle, Colorado versus Dallas, Vegas versus Winnipeg, Edmonton versus the Kings. And these matchups, there's some matchups here that I'm going to say all of the matchups here I think will be excellent. Most of these are going to be pretty competitive. I don't think there's anyone in this that will be complete blowout, but there are going to be some good ones, some good series. All of these ones, like especially the Atlantic, or not the Atlantic, sorry, the East. They have some powerhouses there.
In the West, all those matchups are subject to change. Like every single one of those are subject to change.
Yes.
Like in the East, you've kind of got what you're mostly gonna get. Like obviously, you've got confirmed with Toronto and Tampa and Boston and Florida. I believe Pittsburgh is gonna move past Florida with their win tonight if they haven't already. If that game's not already over, maybe Philadelphia made a comeback. I wouldn't count on it, but I would say Pittsburgh's back into that spot now. But in the West, I can see really one of these maybe sticking. Like the Oilers and Kings, that might be the only one of these that might stick, because there's still a few teams that might get in the West. I don't know if Minnesota is going to win the division. Like they've been playing very well recently, but they're still, I believe, only 2 points ahead of third place in that division. That's a very good down the stretch thing to watch in the Western Conference. I'm really going to enjoy watching that.
Yeah, it's gonna be, and I just checked as well. Pittsburgh did win 4-2, so I would assume they probably moved ahead of Florida if that was the standings. Yeah, but that's the thing in this Minnesota, like you said, if Minnesota moves out of first place, whoever moves into first place in the Central will play Seattle. I think that's almost a guarantee. I don't think Winnipeg will pass Seattle. I don't think Seattle will get up past anybody up in the Pacific who have clinched. So
It's pretty guaranteed at this point that it's either going to be Vegas. The top three spots are Vegas, Edmonton, and LA. Because I'm pretty sure LA is like 8 or 9 points ahead of Seattle at this point. So
Yeah.
that's pretty confirmed.
Yeah. So like, and we also have Calgary, who could potentially, if they go on a hot streak, it's probably unlikely, could get in, could squeak in. But yeah,
At
like you
this
said,
point, they're losing to Anaheim. So
yeah,
they're losing to Anaheim right now.
yeah,
So
that's a
I wouldn't
big loss.
I wouldn't put on it.
Yeah, and the Central is a bit of a mix. That can go any way as of now. That can probably go on. Will go down to the last game of the season. But like you said, the East I think is pretty much a lock. Most of these probably will be the four teams. Maybe switch out Florida, Pittsburgh, depending on what that situation is. But the other seven are, I think that will be what it is. So it's going to be I think all those series are going to be very very exciting to watch. They're going to be very very good, very very competitive. I don't see, if at all, any sweeps. I'd have to probably go in deeper, look at it, look through them, analyze it. But for my first glance, I don't see any sweeps at all in these series in the first round. But it's going to be very, very exciting now. We're coming to that time. We only have a few games left in the season for all these guys, and I'm sure they're getting excited as well. You can see in the play the past few days, some people, like, it's been getting a bit grittier, some big hits. The tempers are flaring a bit. So it's going to be very, very exciting. Come down this.
Yeah, the whistles are getting ready to get put away.
Yeah, it's getting that time. That's all we have for this video, everybody. And if you liked it, make sure to subscribe, because obviously, like I said at the start of the video, the playoffs are coming soon. After that, we have the draft, free agency. It's getting a very, very exciting time of the season. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Make sure to like this video if you liked it and enjoyed. And thank you for watching.